This story happened a month ago. A group of 3 families and I went on a camping trip and took our children with us. We've been on friendly terms for a long time, since college. Almost all are the same age, only 2 wives are younger than their husbands. My name is Yulia, and I went there on vacation with my husband Igor and our 8-year-old twins. Ivan and Inna have a 7-year-old daughter, while Sveta and Vitaly have 2 sons, aged 7 and 8, respectively. In general, we have a great company for a vacation. I've been looking at Ivan for a long time, who I liked since college, but when we met, he was already dating his wife. So I just had to accept it. After that, I met my husband and my desires gradually began to be forgotten by a wave of new feelings, and then by family life. I only remembered on such trips, when we arranged such removals with the children. It was then that I could communicate more closely with him, albeit in public, so as not to arouse any suspicion from my own husband. At the same time, my husband and I had already cooled down after so many years of everyday problems, and he stopped taking care of himself, unlike Ivan, who, even 10 years after we met, looks great and dresses stylishly. I admit that this is partly due to his wife, and partly to the demands of the job. He holds a high position in one of the local companies, earns well, which again differs from my husband, who cannot achieve such successes. But in general, my interest in this man was quite great, so I never missed an opportunity to at least flirt or communicate with him, even though I tried to do it quite carefully. This vacation trip changed everything. Immediately upon arrival, we settled down, set up tents and, as usual on any vacation, began to roast meat and drink. The children were playing on the side, and there was a separate blanket for them, so we didn't interfere with each other in any way. Drunk and in the light of a campfire, my college friend's husband seemed even more attractive than usual. Moreover, everyone drank well enough and began to fall asleep a little on the spot. My husband suggested that I go to bed, but I said that I would stay by the campfire for a while. He agreed with me and helped his friends put all the children to bed and went to the tent himself. As the place by the campfire emptied, my desire grew more and more intense, and I saw that Ivan thought the same way and was in no hurry to leave this place. He only distracted himself to get his wife to the tent, because she had too much to drink that evening, although she does not have such a habit. In the middle of the night, we were left alone when all our friends were overcome by the long road and alcohol. I invited him to sit next to me on the bedspread. He gladly agreed. He started complimenting me, saying that he had dreamed of me all his life and that I was much more beautiful than his wife. I was already drunk enough to believe anything. And I've always liked him, so I just gave up. It was a pretty romantic scene in the woods around a campfire, but exactly until we had witnesses. Vitaly, who had been sleeping peacefully with his wife right up to that moment, came out of the tent to relieve himself. When he saw in the firelight what we were doing there, he just grinned and went about his business. We didn't even tell him anything. He's a reliable person, so we were sure he wouldn't tell anyone, and we decided not to waste time and pick up where we left off. But we didn't have long to enjoy each other's company, because Sveta followed her husband out of the tent, who probably woke up because of him and also went out to get some fresh air. Svetka is an impulsive woman. She didn't keep quiet. At least she was smart enough not to scream or wake up our children, and thank you very much for that. Anyway, she unceremoniously barged into my husband's tent, started mumbling about cheating, and he immediately jumped out, sleepy and angry at being woken up. He clearly still couldn't grasp the gravity of the situation that had roused him from his sleep. At the same time, Ivan and I have already cleaned ourselves up. Svetka continued her raid after she made sure that my husband was now aware. She called Inna from her tent. But how did she call? She tried, but it didn't work out, because she had had too much to drink and was unable to even respond intelligibly to all attempts to wake her up. Yes, it's probably for the best. It will be possible to explain everything to her with a clearer head when she wakes up. My husband, when he realized that Svetka was not lying, immediately ran up to Ivan and slapped him in the face. He took me by the hair and dragged me into the tent. None of us, the guilty ones, tried to justify what we had done. It was already clear that we would not be able to live as before. Anyway, I quietly asked him not to yell at me so the kids wouldn't wake up. Besides, he didn't want to scream. He just sat down next to me, put his head in his hands and started saying all sorts of insults and regrets about so many years spent, and I don't care anymore. I only now realized that I should have seduced Ivan much earlier, when he and his future wife were still dating. It was better to lose my friend than my personal happiness, and now that I've lost not only her, but also my man, who obviously won't be with me after what happened. How many mistakes have been made in all this time? The next evening, the four of us decided to have a serious conversation, so that there would be no unnecessary witnesses. Svetka tried to pry with her unnecessary advice, but we quickly sent her away, so as not to interfere. Ivan's wife didn't make a scene with me, didn't hit me or even insult me. My friend is still a strong woman, and I've always known that. The situation was wild, and none of us knew what to do next. We just looked at each other stupidly, and the offended parties didn't even say anything about the divorce. As a result, we decided that now we will be formally divorced and everyone will have their own life, because after what happened, obviously no one will be able to pretend to be a normal family. We decided to keep the appearance for the children, no matter what kind of relationship we have, and we love children very much. I know that neither my husband nor my girlfriend will forgive me, but once I had the chance to create the relationship I've always dreamed of, I decided not to miss it. After arriving, my husband and I lived as neighbors, and I tried to keep in touch with Ivan and even invited him on a date. He honestly told me that he could no longer lie to me, and I must admit that it was not the first time he had cheated on his wife and always did it according to the same scheme, which worked well with me. My heart was completely broken. I instantly lost everything that was dear to me. All that's left are the children of the man who now hates me for my betrayal. It was only after that I could realize how much I had hurt him, and that he had been my rock and support all these years, and I had traded him for a cheap fling. That day, I came home and began to tearfully ask my husband for forgiveness for what had happened between us. She said that I would do everything to preserve our relationship and that I understood everything. He honestly said that he still loves me, but I don't think he can forgive me for what I've done to him. What a terrible mistake I made and so viciously betrayed a loved one. I can only hope that time heals.